Well, it is that time again, everybody. How you are doing? Well, my name is Bird Dog John, and I am back in action.
In those scenarios,
Yep.
it's good to neuralize the cameras. You guys know that best.
Very straightforward. Plug it in, go to the web UI, link the source, walk away. You know, like super simple. I keep looking over at the chat, and I keep seeing you are full of it. Tasty, spicy meat snacks. Covered in flavor. I mean, you can't go wrong. So what's going on? We've got a handful of folks here in the chat, and I really appreciate that. What's up, mate? Hey, Warren, how are you? Appreciate it. Hey, Robbie, how's it going, man? We were just talking about you. What's going on, Tom? Ahoy. How is it going? What's going on, Go Web? Good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out with us again today. Appreciate that. I feel like I'm in this video more than anyone but John. It's true, NetApp. You are, I'm going to cut this up and put this in the next intro. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hopefully you are doing well. I indeed am Bird Dog John. Hopefully things are going all right for you. It's been a busy few days here at the office, and so it's been kind of a bit of a whirlwind because we're in meetings this morning, and yeah, there's been a fair bit of a fair bit to discuss. So yeah, sorry for my what will appear to be a scatterbrain here this morning, but I promise you I will stay with you for an hour. That is the plan. What's going on, Angus? Good morning. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for stopping by. And always a pleasure to have you around from Edmonton. Greetings from India. Namaste. What's going on, Go Web? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Judson. Hey, man. I saw your stuff showing up on Facebook the other day. Looks like you guys are busy where you're at. So all good. Let's go through. And today I want to talk a little bit about the workflow that I'm using in vMix and how I'm thinking about changing it. And we're going to try and actually do that a little bit inside vMix. So I'll have to probably share my vMix screen so you guys can see what's going on. But we definitely want to do that and just kind of walk through workflow and give you guys an idea as to how it is that I kind of self-produce this show. That's been going on. It's been evolving for like almost 5 years at this point. And so it's fun to kind of figure out, all of those things, all those flows, and make them work. So that's what today's plan is going to be. I'm going to tell you a little bit about, how I do this initially. And then, and I can even show you. On Tuesday's show, we had spent some time setting up an X-Keys device through Companion to control vMix, and it does it pretty well. All of the stuff that I had on my X-Keys controller, which I had programmed through shortcuts, all was also available, I guess, for integration with Companion. So I even have two buttons that I added, and that's pretty good to get a little more functionality. One of them is directly related to my in-ear monitor because I wanted a way to we revamped the monitor system basically with the help of CJ, who's in Melbourne now, and CJ basically showed me how to map that out for getting the things that I want to hear and not want to hear isolated into specific feed, whereas before I was using basically the headphone out from the computer to do this. And that was an interesting challenge because sometimes I would turn on vMix and nothing would come out of the headphone jack. So I'm not too sure what I was supposed to do there. But now that I have it set up this way, it actually hasn't failed me. The only time it fails is when I forget to turn it on. So that's pretty consistent, which is nice. I wish I could name it something other than the letter A, and maybe I can, but I'll have to investigate that a little bit. Hi, John from Spain. Hi, Lewis. How are you? Good to see you. Ooh, someone from Myanmar. I'm not going to attempt to butcher your name on stream, but welcome to the show. Glad that you could join us. Lewis says, before you dive into today's topic, I have a question about the time code of the P200. I control them by NDI, but the video output is through HDMI. Okay. Is it sufficient for them to stay synchronized or only if the image is output through NDI? Thanks. So, as I understand time code with NDI, is that it's pretty much not really a thing. NDI 5 Genlock is a concept that I have yet to see really make Genlock sense, but the cameras themselves, I find them to be fine in terms of timing. But when you talk about time code, you're probably referring to genuine time code, and they're all the cameras themselves are running independently in terms of they're not referencing anything, and there isn't a place to reference them. So the HDMI port is probably going to have slight better latency than the NDI because, again, as I understand it, how bird dog cameras work is the signal comes down from the hits the glass, comes down, hits the board. The board outputs to SDI, HDMI, and the NDI chip. The NDI chip encodes and then ships that out the network port. So there is a process that's happening after the HDMI output, after the signal goes out the HDMI, and the NDI technically should be ever so slightly different than the HDMI. So take that for what it's worth, but that's as I understand it. Has it really been that long? 5 years? Yeah, it actually has. Unbelievably. Pretty much coming up on 5 years early next year. So 4 or 5 years is probably more accurate, I guess. Have you tried chroma keying your background and put a beautiful landscape behind it? Just a thought. So I actually really detest chroma keys because I think, and this is where I veer from the path of production stuff. I know that there's a lot of those like news desks type of situations where guys just green out their background and then they put them sitting at a news desk. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Am I dropping frames? It looks like I'm dropping frames. Yep, I'm dropping frames on YouTube. Let's pull that up. Let's see what's going on here. I'm also watching that through a remote, so I will put it here on YouTube and watch. Okay, it's caught up. I wonder what that was all about. But interesting. Yeah, so but I'm like anti green screen mostly because I always feel like it's just a little off-putting. It's a little strange. I know you're not sitting at a news desk. I know you don't have that sort of like retail space, and I know commercial space. And something usually it's the lighting isn't right for what the background is, and so it's visually off-putting. Now, I mean, I have the probably the background to do it, but these are just LEDs. So there you go. I have not tried chroma keying it. I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't do anything like that probably on this in this studio. Hey, any updates on out of warranty repairs? Actually, yeah, that's coming quickly because we have just talked to our accounting team about that, and so the ball is moving on that. When I officially get the process ironed out now, and we do our first couple, then I will probably announce something on this show that that's a function that we have, but nothing quite yet. The ball has moved though, in terms of we are a lot closer than we ever have been to making that a reality. So there you go. This is, I believe, Jesse. What's going on, Jesse? Over on Facebook. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for stopping by. Any chance of a retroactively applying a new 5-year warranty to old equipment? No. That is actually explicitly written in the new warranty details that it has to be purchased after March. So there you go. I just bought a third P200 because my A200 camera was having a firmware reload every time on boot. No matter what, I need that third camera to cover off any repairs, but it really jangles the old nerves to have such an expensive paperweight. No, but there should be a repair service coming soon, so hang tight. Hello from Denver. Hey, Jesse, what's going on? Thanks for checking in Denver. And maybe I should do my due diligence and do this. I got to turn the audio off on my monitor. Okay, cool. So this is good to go. I'll put this up on the big screen. Come on now. And we're going to make that full screen. I'm going to start accepting responses because it appears that there are a lot of people from all over the place, including Jesse out in Denver. So here's the QR code. And if you scan that QR code, you'll be taken to a Google's form, a Google web form. And it has 2 questions. What country are you in? What's the closest major city? And if you fill that out, then you will have a pin that will drop on this map. So, yeah, fill that little form out there, and boom, Angus is on the board already. So that's what this is. This is a fun little game we played. Now, we didn't do this last week, or I'm sorry, last show on Tuesday, because we spent an hour and a half just talking about programming X keys, a 24 X keys through Companion for vMix. That was quite the show. Tomorrow, I believe that cut video, which there wasn't much on the front and back end of that, but I think tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. that goes live on my channel. So if you haven't done so already, be sure to jump on over to birddogjohn.tv and subscribe to that channel. That video will go up tomorrow, and that will be an adventure if you didn't join us in how to get that process working through Companion. And I want to touch just like a quick follow-up that it doesn't matter that it's not in Tuesday's show, but I will make a quick little follow-up that the way that I have the feedback lights now on the X keys is basically when lights turn on when I turn on features and they turn off when I turn off features. So, for example, that overlay that was just on the screen, that is overlay 2. And when I pressed that button, the red light came on. And when it auto cleared, the light went off. And so that I find very convenient because we definitely need more of that. So let me just show you here real quick what I mean by that. So if I cut over to this overhead view and then I fire an overlay, that light turns on while the overlay is on. But then when it clears, which is only like 8 seconds, that light should turn off. So I love that. I love that like actual feedback. Whereas if you use the X keys backlit program, I don't know of a way to do that live feedback type of option. So it's pretty nice to have that. I basically run this whole show without this keyboard now, which is also nice because I don't need it. So maybe we'll try and do that here. Keyboard and a mouse. I use the X keys and the mouse. Also, just a quick little mention here is Brayton brought over some Amish beef sticks, and the ones that he gave me are spicy. And so today's Snacks on Stream is brought to you by Amish beef sticks, also known as Bird Dog Brayton. So really appreciate that, man. Thanks for bringing something for the show. That's always fun. Always like doing that. Now, I just pressed a button on I just pressed a button on the remote control and it changed my TV output to Hell's Kitchen. So apparently the Wi-Fi is connected. Let's see if I can switch that back to my resource. Don't worry about that. All right, cool. So now we're back in business, and we're going to throw the map up here just one more time as you guys are checking in. Always pretty nice to have all of that working together. It's always fun to see where you guys are. So thanks for checking in. It's always a cool feature. Okay, so let me jump into the chat, make sure I tidy things up over there. I have a couple units at your facility that you could use for guinea pigs. I have a couple of units at your facility you could use for guinea pigs. Jesse T, I'm up in Collins. Hey, what's going on? Bryce? I hereby volunteer to be the test subject for the repair service. I've got a ticket in the system right now. Yes, I think I know that ticket, actually. Facebook user. Was that Folsom? Is that how you say that? Let's see who's over on Facebook today. Hey, what's going on, Jeff? Jeff is on Facebook with us today. Oh, that sucks. I just checked my orders. My newer P200 was bought just over a year ago. Number 5, no 5-year warranty on that. Also, in relevance to our BirdDog NDI devices, it's possible to change the headphone out port on the Flex 4Ks to be fed into a talkback speaker. Hang on one second. Let me look. I just want to. I'm monitoring the show. Yeah, okay. So the Flex out, that port is supposed to be for comms. It should have a little headset on it, actually, like printed on it. So the Flex 4Ks should be used for comms. I was referring to a ticket with 2 minis that are inoperative. Oh. Yeah, so converters is a different repair story because it's a single board. So there isn't really anything to repair. We'd have to do a component level repair, not a part swap. You know what I mean? So that's still kind of up in the air. Converters, we're not there yet with converters. This is mostly for our cameras, which have some modules in them, various parts that we can swap out for other ones. But okay. Let us go over to my brand here and just close this out for a second. I want to walk through my vMix setup and talk about how I have things currently kind of configured. And the way I'm going to do that, this is going to be really bizarre, is I'm going to share this screen, which is, and I'm going to eliminate. This is interesting. So I'm going to change the desktop settings. Sorry, let's go down to this source. We're going to open up settings. And for today's sake, I'm going to turn off this layer because you can pretty much see all of that. Okay. So here is my vMix setup, and it looks really strange seeing all of this kind of like it's a mirror in a mirror in a mirror. But anyways, so here's the vMix setup. This is basically how I run my show. And the audio thing is all jacked up here. It's not normally that big. But this, I have everything broken up into these like subcategories. So I have my overlays, which is basically my countdown timer that I use for the beginning of the show. There's an overlay in there. And actually, there's another overlay that's missing, so I'll find that one. My start and stop screen, so starting and ending of the show, that's where these two are. And these are just straight up pictures. Okay, so I'm not doing anything special with those other than adding the overlay for the countdown on the start stream. But there are some shortcuts that are on there, like triggering audio and music and that sort of thing. So there are those options that are embedded in each of these sources. Bumper videos is the BirdDog Live's starting show. So, I have a little basically intro video that runs that has several of you guys actually on it. But I have both of those intros, the original, which is this, and then the BirdDog Live one, which is that. And that is, and then there's a Snacks on Stream bumper, which will run when we have Snacks on Stream. But that's where that is housed. All of the BirdDog commercials that are here, and including some other ones that are like different, but all of our commercials that I run, so the X120 or We Are BirdDog, Video Wall, those, and even the BirdDog stories, those are all in a folder together. And then I have my camera sources. So all of the cameras, I got 5 shots basically that I use. And I've built these as layered sources. And these are the things that I'm calling when I'm changing things on the X keys. These are the sources that I'm calling. And I've kind of like been on the fence about the way that this is organized because I'd like to just have camera sources themselves in their own folder, and then to create basically another tab that would let me do to build scenes essentially with the inputs that I have. So that's kind of today's function. Of course, audio sources, I don't want to forget that, but I've got various audio sources here in this pile. So the RE20, obviously, music from VLC, my sound effects channel, which is
excellent.
All of the sound bites that come in on that. And that's actually a like a cable input. That's a digital cable input, so you can tell the sound effects play out of this output, and then I link that output here in vMix. So it doesn't play on the desktop. It doesn't play out of the main speakers. It plays over that cable output, and then that cable output is here. The Seinfeld transition that I use for sometimes when we cut to the main screen. Oh, I realize you can't see me. Sometimes when we cut to the main screen, that's just that straight up sound effect. This is microphone 2, which is on my table here. There's a second cable, and that is input 2 on the Euphoria UMC4404 HD. That is input 2. Now, that changed recently because originally the software for the Behringer Euphoria stuff was channels 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 were inputs. So you had 2 inputs on the thing. Now you can individualize them as 1 through 4. And it may have been that I had an older firmware that wasn't correctly set up, very likely. But I could have also updated recently when I got the Stream Dudes machine, and now, now they enable individual channels. So this is channel 1, and then my shotgun microphone, which currently isn't set up for this rig, is out of 2. So if I wanted to add a second microphone, a different style of microphone, I could do that on channel 2, 3, or 4, and it would look just like this here. And then the Among Us sound effect, which sometimes gets played when we go over to the desktop screen as well. So those are both muted right now. And then the last tab that I have is the lower thirds, and these are those actual overlays that get triggered. And so lower thirds, overlays, these should probably all be in the same queue right now, because that's what they are. So let's actually change that. I'm going to change this to pink, general, and then pink, and then done. And so now under lower thirds, we have 4 elements in here that we're using. Countdown, the overlay 1, overlay 2, and then the actual time code that I was using the other day for testing purposes. So that's all of my things coming into vMix. That's how I've kind of organized them to keep them separate but quickly referenceable. And then, like I said, I'm switching between actual camera sources when I am, calling cameras. And so this is going around and actually calling different sources. The desktop source is Scan Converter. Okay, so it is running Scan Converter on this screen, which is running in 1080p, and it's a little bit stretched for the size of that screen, but that's okay. All right. So that is the general idea. Now, what I want to do is I want to create another tab, essentially, and call this outputs, because all of these are essentially inputs. They're all scenes or sources or whatever, and I want to primarily use layering on a separate, what would be called an input, but basically creating them as scenes that I can call, and then I can link those to my X keys unit as scene 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So right now, this is camera 1 is the P200, camera 2 is the 110, 3 is the P4K, 4 is my overhead 100, and then 5 is the desktop, and 6 is the starting screen. So we want to, the issue is that I'm building on the input layers of the cameras to do each of these. And so in some cases, for example, like this, the P200 is sitting on top of the P100. And that's okay, except it shows 2 previews here on the screen. And so when I cut over to that, now you can see that previews 1 and 5 are lit up because the 200 is also on this screen. So that's confusing, right? So I want to, now this is interesting that one doesn't light up, and that may just be a configuration issue, but one should light up. It should be lit up in both regards because the 200 is on both. Actually, the 200 is technically not on this one. Oh, you know why? Because the 200 on the desktop scene is a layer, but it's not on. That's why. Interesting. But here you can see that both 1 and 5 are in preview. Yeah, because camera 1 is selected anyway. So Anyway, and now it's 1 in 4 because the previous shot is overhead and the P100 overhead and the P200. So what the problem is that when you hit a button like that and two of them light up, you don't actually know which one you're on. So I want to create basically outputs and then link them as source 1, source 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And essentially they will be really the same, but it gives you the option to customize them at that point. So that's what we want to do. Now, let me not neglect the chat too much here, and I will switch back over and make sure that I'm all caught up. Yes, okay, so we're all caught up here in the chat, which is great. So now let's go back to what happened here. All right, so let's go to this. All right, and let's build that now. Okay, so let's go up to settings, which is up here in the corner, and it's gonna open this up. This is kind of like our general information. So we're gonna click through some of these and just see what options we have here. Where is the option? Actually, I think it's not on this screen, is it? Where is it that you customize those? Okay, so it's not here. So we're going to cancel. And we're going to right click. There it is. And now I'm going to select a new layer. And I need my keyboard back. Now I'm going to I'm going to call this outputs for now. I'm not thrilled with that name, but I'm going to call it that. And we're going to change the desired color. And you have to, okay, vMix should not be a double click. Okay, if you click it once, it does nothing. If you click it twice, it opens. Should not be a double click. It should be a single, but anyways, whatever. So let's see what color I'm not using. I'm using red, green, yellow, purple, blue, 2 blues, and a pink. So I'm going to use like a bright green because this is kind of like the sources you want to use in the show. So there we go. All right, outputs are here. So now we want to build our scenes based on our inputs, right? So we're going to actually start building blank inputs. And inside here, we're going to layer these up. So we're going to open up the settings. We're going to hit layers. And then I'm just going to select, for the P200, I'm just going to select layer 1. And I'm going to say P200, which is down here. All right? And that's all I want in layer 1. All I want is P200. And I want to probably change the name. You should be able to quickly change the name too, but say P200 out so I can differentiate P2. Actually, you know what? I don't need to do that because the source, the actual input for the P200, which is what this is not called P200, right? It's called the source name of the P200, which is NDI Bird Studio P200 cam. So now all my inputs can get cleaned up because I can put them all in order as I want them, first of all, but I can label them exactly as I want them as well. So I like that. I like that idea. I'm going to make another one. And we're going to go here and we're going to say this is going to be called P110. And we're going to say layers and we're going to say layer 1. I want this to be the P110. All right, good. So far, so good. Now, I see the chat moving. And so let's find out how it is that you might change. Can you record all of your input sources individually to an external location like a hard drive? Or is vMix still limited to only being able to record 4 inputs in the multicorder? Oh, that's a great question. I know that multicorder is a thing. I don't know how many sources you can do. We could probably find out just as we take a brief pause here and go to settings, recording. Oh, that doesn't actually tell us, eh? So somebody in the chat will have to help us out here with that because it looks like that information is not under the recording option, which you would think it is. Okay, so let's keep going here. So source 1 and source 2 are done. Here, I'm going to call, oh, I'm sorry, this is P4K. And we're going to call it P4K. All right. All right. So now we've got, 34, 35, 36. This is nice now because they're all in sequential order too, which will be helpful when we reprogram the X keys through companion. All right, let's add another source. Now, source number 4 is my overhead, my P100 overhead with my talking head in the corner, right? With the P200 layer. So what we want to do here is I'm going to create a new input, blank. Oh, I made 2 already. Whoops. Oh no, don't do that. Cancel that. Okay, cancel that. Thank you. All right, so here we're going to call this P100, or we can call this overhead because that's the camera, and maybe we'll give it a little subtitle. And then we say layer. And here, what I want to do here is I want to select a different layout. So I want this layout, and I want the background to be the P100 overhead, and I want the one in the corner to be my P200. Now, I'm already there, but that's because the source already has that. And so if we do this number, now you can see that I'm doubled up here, right? So what we need to do is we need to go back to cameras, and we need to eliminate any of those guys that I'm sneaking in the corner right here. So we could just change this now to none. And now that raw source is that overhead camera. Okay, so now if I go back to my output and I say P200 overhead, there I am. Okay, so now I'm here in the corner again. I'm a little off center and I'm taking up a little bit too much of the room. I'll show you how to change that because it's super easy. We go here, we say position, and we say input number 2. It's nice that it gives us the name. And we can pan and tilt any way that we want. Okay, so we can move ourselves around and put ourselves wherever we want to. The other thing that we need to do, though, is probably crop this picture a little bit so that I'm not taking up a ton of space. Whoops. So let's make this a nice, pretty much even square. And then I'm going to drag this over to the corner. And, whoops, other way. And then put myself down here in the bottom. So that most of the image from the input 1 is going to be exposed, right? All right, so that's good. I like that a lot. I think that's a good copy of the overhead. And then input 5 is going to be the desktop. And so here we're going to say layers and multi-view. I again want to do, actually, let's be real smart about this. To create consistency across the whole board, I am going to, whoops, not do that. Can I? All right, so I want to copy this. That's what I want to do. I want to create a duplicate, right? And I think there's got to be a way. Let's find out. Okay, not on this menu. And is it here? Is it, where could it be? Where could it be? Close. Switch this. More? There's got to be a way. All right, somebody in the chat, how do you duplicate a source? I'm going to close these other ones because I keep right clicking and it's really annoying, but advanced, general. I'm not entirely sure actually. But if you could duplicate it, then obviously you would be able to get consistency. Oh. You'd be able to get consistency across image sequencer, images, audio, visuals, virtual sets. Okay, not in here. All right, somebody. Only John can put John in a corner. What's going on, JB Tech? Welcome back. Um, don't be sorry for interrupting. Always happy to take questions while we go here. I love vMix, but just got a Director Mini from Magewell, so I can have a portable mini rig. X120 should be sweet paired with it. Can you remind me, does cam control work for auto follow on P200s? Yes, there is a tracking function in cam control for the P200 as long as you're on the latest. All right. I feel like I should be able to copy and paste this, but I can't find an immediate way to do that. So we're going to make another blank, and I'm going to go, this one is my desktop. So I want to use this feature, and I want to say desktop, which is nice that it's already there. And I want to say P200 because that is my go-to main camera. So that's this one here. Now, one thing that I could do is I could just copy the settings from, what did I do there? Okay. So I could copy the settings. So let's close this down for now. Open this up and say position. So 277, 1473. So 277 and 1473. Okay, so that has given me that. And then I need to move it. And so the position, oh geez, is I may need to write this down. 0.78, I'm sorry, 0.798 negative 655. 0.798 655. 0.798, and this is negative 655. Boom. Okay, so now, see, the reason for this is I want to provide consistency between these two shots, right? So here, if I cut between them, I don't want my image to like move around. I want it to be the same on both. So that would be a duplicate. That would be really nice if I could duplicate that somehow. But that is now, those picture in pictures are now consistent. So this one, I'm going to have to call this one desktop out for now because I actually have another source that's called desktop, the original. So let's actually change that. That's under camera sources. See how it's called desktop here? So I'm going to say desktop in on this one, and then I'll call the other one desktop because that's what I want. Okay, so now we can say, oh, you know what? I'm going to leave it as desktop out because then it differentiates between the input and the output just by saying in and out. So I'm going to leave that. All right, and then now I have the luxury of kind of picking whatever I want for input 6 because remember that input is just, you know, stream starting, and I don't know necessarily. I used it this morning. It was convenient, but it's not something that I'm going to use. That set of buttons is really not going to get used very often. So we can create that for anything, but I would not probably create a background, an output background. I would leave it as is. And so all my outputs, you know, that I want to use need to be here, but these are all sources, you know. These are all inputs essentially, and I want to program these as outputs. Okay. So I've got that set. Now, oh, I should also mention, inside the camera sources, I've got some automations that I probably need to be conscious of, right? So some triggers or things like that. Let's go down to the 200. I'm going to look at triggers. Here I have, when I switch to the P200, I do a check basically that the microphone is on. Now, I don't really need this anymore because I have a red light in front of me showing me whether I'm on or off. So I don't need to actually have this transition on the main camera, which is fine. You know, I don't need to worry about that too much. Let's go ahead and look at what other triggers that we have. So audio on. So again, make sure that my microphone is on. The Among Us sound effect, and to make sure that the sound effects channel is actually on. Again, these three probably don't need at this point. So we're going to delete those. And the reason why I'm cleaning these up at this point is because we're not going to use these as sources going out live. I'm going to use the outputs now for that function. So I just want to make sure though there's nothing unique. Like the sound effects thing is mostly just to double check to make sure that that cable, that digital cable is on at any time. Okay, so it's just a checks and balance. Same thing with this microphone is I didn't have a button that was feeding back the information whether or not it was working. So it wasn't a glitch. Don't adjust your headsets. So we want to, now that I have that feedback here, I can see it in front of me that the microphone is muted. I don't necessarily need it, and I certainly don't need it on the inputs. So that is my next step. So that one's clear. That one's clear. Whoops. Sorry, everybody. Hey, there's the map if you're interested. That one's clear, and let's load that again. And then the last one is the P4K. Okay, so yeah, overlay in and out. This is when I was trying to do overlays, so we can get rid of those things. Delete, delete, delete. Okay, so that is all good. And now I'm going to go back to see my UMC, for example, is here, and it shows that it's going out the master, but it's not going into my ear. If I wanted it to go into my ear, I could patch it that way by going down here and saying play in the A output, which is it's now playing in or was playing in my ear, and that's really annoying. So now the outputs, this is now the new thing. All right. Somebody on YouTube suggested that instead of putting input and the number, which is what we did in Companion yesterday. So let me put this over here now, and I'm going to switch back to my main view. Make sure that you guys can see and hear me again. Okay, so what was suggested is that inside Companion, let me pull this over here now on the desktop. That I use the name of the input instead of the number of the input. All right. So here we go. We're back in Companion. And I don't know. I haven't done this before, but when I click on preview, see how it's blue, but it also lights up this little bar when I press the button. So if I click on that and I change the input, if I were to change the input to the short name, which is now P200, okay, the idea is that it should call that. So if I change this and then call this, it actually does call that source now. Okay. So let's change another one. Like this one should be P110. And the idea is that if you have to change if the input numbers change, it doesn't jack up all your buttons. It stays with the input because the name is the same, which is why I like the simplified name. And so here, if I press input 2, it is now, however, it is not, why didn't it did not pull it up in 35 as in, doesn't show it in tally. Let me look. Is the camera called P? It is. Okay. So let's go back here. General cam. And I'm going to change the input now to cam. And I'm also going to do that with the rest of my sources that, like P4K cam, because we're duplicating inputs, right? So P4K cam, P100, P110, P100 overhead, desktop input, and then the long P200. Okay, so those are my 5 sources. So now when I load preview 2, it says cam, and here I want to change this to interesting. It doesn't like that. It doesn't like that. And maybe So if I change this to input 35 and I call it, oh no, it didn't do it either. Fascinating. Why is desktop out? Oh, it's just here. Okay. So yeah, if I want to give this a go. Input 35. Ah, if I hit enter, no, still doesn't do it. If I turn it off and back on again, preview 2 is lit, but it shows P110 cam. All right, so if I were to change this, you know what? I'm going to save this. That's what I'm going to do. So if and then I'm going to restart BitFocus. That's what I'm going to do. So there's been a problem. Uh-oh. Okay, so hey everybody. Oh, that was weird. My tell script went offline. Oh, she's struggle bussing. Oh no. What's going on here? I just lost the P200 for some reason and it just reset. Interesting. That's fascinating. What could that be about? I wonder. So if I preview, still didn't change it to input 35, even though, oh, that did it. Okay, so companion needed to be restarted, essentially. And now I'll cut this over. This is the P110 source, whereas this is the P200. So now we're swapping inside of there. Okay. Hey, P200's all out of whack now. And I need to reposition that apparently. So let's do that. P200. Yoink. All right. And then looks like maybe the exposure got changed potentially, but yeah, because it's definitely darker than it was. So maybe I'm a little too close. One fun fact is that you can right click inside vMix, the P200, and then say configure source. And so then it will open up the web UI for that. So if I say cam control and I open up this a little bit and I compare it to the other shots. Huh. Should be 60. So this is an interesting discovery. I don't know if it's related or not. I think that's better. Okay. Let's go back here. An interesting discovery. I have a support related P200 here. And so there's lots of things that are going on with it. But one of them is that it doesn't recall the iris correctly. So it's kind of annoying. All right. So if I load preview 2 into the camera, if I load this P110, why didn't it give me feedback? Because you have to change it here too. There it is. Okay, so if I load that and then cut that, that's working. And I can show you that here on the actual desktop. Excuse me, the desktop. That when I load preview 1, see the new output P110 is now in preview. And if I hit go over, now you can see it's in red behind my head here, right? So that is actually communicating. So when you make these changes, you'll need to restart Companion in order to reinitiate all of the information. So I saved and then I restarted Companion and now we're up and running. So let's go back here so that we can get into, so we got to do all of this here. So let's start with preview 1 and program 1. So the P200 and the feedback, it needs to be P200. Okay. And then program 1 is here. And we need this to say P200. P200. And feedback. Why is that P2. Oh, shoot. Is that program 1, preview 1? Yeah, okay. So those lights are working. Oh, but program 1 here just called the wrong camera. Ugh. Yeah, it called the wrong camera. So when I click here for some reason, and maybe I need to reload this. When I click on program 1, I have it as input P200, which is the name of the source. Feedback input P200. When I load it, it loads the P200, but when I program it, it loads the other one. It loads the input. So there's something going on with, program 25, which is this one. Geez. All right, so this is program 1. And this is supposed to be P200. And this is supposed to be P200. So now if I load that, now that's the correct source. Okay, got it. Clear as mud. Okay, cool. So preview 1 and program 1 were mislabeled, which is confusing. But now preview and program for both action and feedback are correct. All right, so now we do that again with program 2 and preview 2. So program 2 is this one. And okay, so these are the 2 buttons. Always check your buttons, I guess, before you do any of that. So this should be called P110 because that's the second source, and you change it both on action and on feedback if you're using an X keys. And then again here, we're going to change this P110 and feedback P110. So now they're both correct inside of the system. Great. So let's go number 3. All right, so this is calling the P4K. So program 3 is here, and we're going to call this P4K. And program 3 is here, which is labeled program 1 for some reason. So let's show you this. So this should be program 3. And here we're going to call this P4K. Whoops. P4K and feedback. I want that to relay P4K tally information, action and tally. And then here, 3 P4K and feedback should be P4K as well. So now when we hit number 3, I have preview tally on the X keys. And then if I hit program, the source is being called correctly, and I'm seeing tally reiterated on there. So that's good. Okay, number 4 is my overhead camera, is this one. And this is the wrong source because obviously you can't see my face, right? The other one, we put my face in the bottom corner. And so, and I supposed to put my face in the bottom corner of this one too. Boom. Okay, so for the overhead camera, it's called overhead and then brackets P100, which might be an advocacy for keeping your naming simple if you're configuring it this way. So let's just call this P100. All right? Because there's just too much room for error. So if I've changed the name, then what's the rule? We need to restart bitfocus. Okay. So I'm going to go here. And there we have restarted. So now if I'm clicking on input 4, all right, this is preview 4 and program 3 is what it's claiming to be. So preview 4, and this one should be called 4 as well. Okay, now we got our apples in a row here. And I'm going to change this to P100. And I'm going to say feedback P100. And then program 4, I'm going to say P100. And I'm going to say feedback P100. All right. So now if I load this, in preview 4, it is my overhead P100. And if I cut it over, that tally light turns on, meaning that it's responding back to it's in program. So that's working correctly. Good news. Now let's go to, oh, I'm sorry. Let's go and bring this across. Okay, so the last one is this image that we're looking at right here. And right now it's calling desktop input, and I want to change it to desktop output. So I'm going to click the button, and that is preview 5 and program 5. We've now figured out that that's how it's mapped. And I had a revelation, which isn't much of a revelation, I should say. But this source needs to be called desktop out. Desktop out, like this. And we'll spell it correctly once, and then we'll copy and paste it into the field that is the requirement, like this and like this. Okay, so because you're looking at this feed right now, it shows that it's live. And so if I press that, it pushes it there. But if I press it inside of for preview, it does also show that source. So we've got this system down, and the short names are working, which is amazing, because now when the numbers change, the inputs will all move with the sources and not with the numbers. So great tip. This is why YouTube and our communities are, super helpful, because these like little pro tips that show up, and I would never have known it unless somebody had said so. So keep those coming. Now, the only other one I'm assuming is this is supposed to be preview and program 6, by the way. And this is the start screen, but I'm not changing this. So if I load the start screen into here, and I'll show you vMix again. See, start screen is here, so I have preview is loaded as input 6, which is, I'm not changing that one, although I will change the short name. So the short name for this input is called starting. And so let's go to here, and I'm going to call it, instead of input 7, I'm going to call it starting. And then I'm going to say feedback starting. Oh, nuts. Starting. And then the next button, I'm also going to say, instead of input 7, starting. So now that should move with that feed as well. So that's great. Okay, so I'm happy with the way that this is coming along. I think that this creates a whole lot more versatility in terms of switching inputs. And now I can standardize some of these inputs and simplify. Instead of manipulating inputs like raw camera feeds, I can create, what I did was I created blank inputs and built them with layers as I saw fit. And so I can build like a layer. I'm sorry, I want to show you that. So I can build layers and press these buttons and basically call those output layers and build them however I want. There are some checks and balances that I might suggest that you consider integrating. But what I love about this is when I call this overlay now, notice how only one light is lit up, because I'm calling the overlay. I'm not calling multiple inputs. And so before, when I would call a scene like this, it would show input 4 and input 1 because the P200 is online and is being shown through that input. Now, this is overlay, technically overlay 37. And so that's what this preview or program button 4 is, basically overlay output. I'm so sorry, output 37 instead of two outputs, two cameras, which means now when I switch, it will only ever show two lights on program preview, which is how a typical video switcher is going to work. You're going to build your outputs and then just call that output. It still gives me the flexibility to throw my overlays on top of that and still cut my outputs as I see fit. But it also means, though, now I need to edit the playlist because the playlist is going to be wrong. So I am going to share with you my desktop once again. And this is the vMix playlist that I used to use. All right. So you can see a buck 30, a buck 35, 35 seconds, 20 seconds. So just kind of change it up. I'm going to eliminate all of those now. And I'm going to scroll down to these sources because these are my final overlays. And I'm going to say I want 200, then 110, then back to 200, then to P4K, and then back to 200. So the loop would continue. Okay. So we say loop, begin at the beginning. Don't need to clear overlays, and Bob is your uncle. So now we double click on these, and the duration, don't change starting position because that's not what you want to do. I want to change my duration. So the first one was a buck 30. So we can say 30. We can even select the transition if we want. I just like a simple cut. I also want this one to basically be a $1.30, which I don't know why it was a 35, but let's just make it 30 for normalcy's sake. And then these ones were set to 30 seconds or 25 seconds. So I kind of like 25 actually. So I'm going to set them as 25. And then I'm going to hit close. And now when I hit my playlist button on, it starts the playlist. Okay. And in vMix, you can, the playlist button turns red. And on my X keys, okay, so if I were to throw, you can call other cameras, by the way, when playlists are going. So the playlist button light is on, all right, meaning that the playlist is underway, and it's the first scene. The playlist will go regardless of what else you call. So if I cut here and I leave it for the next minute, it will cut to camera 2, which is the 110. So sometimes I make this mistake where I end the show, but the playlist keeps going, and then all of a sudden I'm back on camera because the timer is out. So I like the fact that the X keys now has feedback telling me the playlist is on. And when I hit off, the playlist being off, that light will disappear. So that's super convenient that that's what's going on here. So as it cycles through the cameras, we'll wait and see how this actually is working. But as we cycle through cameras, you're going to see those cameras change. Now, my only complaint about playlists in this regard is that it doesn't load the next camera in preview, right? So you would think that if it loads the next camera in preview, I'd be able to kind of like look and see, make sure that shot looks good. But it doesn't do that. It just puts them in program. Okay, so it's just one camera after another, puts them in program, and that's how that works. So playlist is on. Okay, there we go. So we just changed to camera 2. So now we're gonna have 25 seconds here while we're in camera 2, and then it should change back on its own without me switching it, which gives a little variety when it comes to actually watching the show. So hopefully you like that. Companion is the best. Companion is a very useful tool. I'll put it that way. There are some rivals out there, and I do want to kind of talk about their integration as well. So we are going to go down that road soon, but just not today. Hey, does BirdDog or New Tech have any network white papers floating around? There are white papers out there. We can give you a brief overview, but we do have some in terms of like best practices. I think New Tech does have one as well. Email us at help@birddog.tv. That would be the easiest way for you to, hey, could you guys send me the best practice, BirdDog networking best practices? We get that all the time, and we'll ship that out to you. So just, reach out to those guys, and we can absolutely, by all means, get you a copy of that for sure. Hey, a shameless push, central control to everyone. In fact, I'm programming an upcoming show on it right now. So this is the other one that I have been graciously given. So some of this stuff was coming up, and I was told, hey, you should definitely give this a try and see what you think. And so I was actually using it as a teleprompter, which is one of the functions. And it's pretty slick from what I can tell so far. So I have gotten everything coordinated with the companion app through Xkeys. But the next piece will be probably doing Central Control, which is a program by a guy named Joe DeMax and his team. And I hear about endless possibilities, so I'm pretty excited about that. That actually might be even more versatile than the companion stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. Angus is a fan of it, evidently. So, and we've learned to grow and trust Angus. So there you go. That's always good. All right. So let me just think here if there's anything else that I wanted to cover. It is 12 o'clock, so we've run the hour, but definitely want to give you an opportunity to ask your questions, NDI stuff. We're here to talk about, workflow. We're here to talk about NDI. We're here to talk about cameras and coloration and all that sort of good stuff. And so I am very interested in hearing more about what it is that you guys are dealing with. I do find that topical shows tend to be well received, and so we'll continue to do that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to making that happen. Brayton has just reminded me too that I haven't done Snacks on Stream. It's true, and so I'm gonna kill the playlist, and we're gonna bumper Snacks on Stream real quick, and then we're gonna actually do that while we finish up the show because that's a great idea. Oh, and another thing is now I can eliminate the overlays tab from my list because, and I can put it maybe down here from my list because I don't have any overlays. So maybe that's what I should have done. I should add all of these. Okay, let me just show you this real quick. Okay, hang on. Let's run the bumper for Snacks on Stream, and then I'll show you what alteration I'm going to make.
John's just making up stuff to start drama.
Look, I don't know.
Look at him.
Wish me luck, folks. It's my first Vegemite experience.
Final, this is like cheese flavor or something. It doesn't really look too appetizing.
Good golly, this is something else, man.
Here's the thing about Pop Rocks, and I don't know if I'm the only one like this. Pop Rocks have always been a social experience for me.
I did not think that is what you were going to say. That's hilarious.
That is awful. Oh, gosh, that's so bad. Jeez. Holy smokes, man.
Yep. Snacks on Stream is back by popular demand, and thank you to Bird Dog Brayton for making all things possible here. So today we have some Amish beef sticks, as mentioned earlier, spicy, whatever that means. I wonder if this is by gauge of like what the Amish think is spicy, or is this like standardized somehow or whatever? But he's graciously given me two just to make sure that I get the full experience. And so we're going to eat these while I talk about a change inside inside vMix. And so you'll notice now that my subgroups are now, there's one that's blank, a green one conveniently. And so instead of creating a custom one, I'm going to change that to outputs. And so the way that we do that is, first of all, we can go into the newly created custom one, and we can just click on each of these and change it to green. Easy. It doesn't change the numbering, the input source numbering or anything. It's just a way to put things in a box together, okay? So we're just sorting is all this is. We're just sorting out how we're going to interact with these things. And now we can right click on outputs, and we can actually turn this one off, and we can call this one outputs, which is convenient because I wanted it to be green, and now it is. Okay, so here, notice that the numbers and the names are all still the same, right? And so as I call those, they still call each of these sources that are on this list, just that the subfolder, the color, the tab that's on that input output, it has changed a little bit. So that's
Pretty neat.
It is pretty neat. Whoa. All right, so that is a different experience, that's for sure. Definitely not. So I eat a lot of snack sticks actually when I'm not on camera. In particular, I usually eat the Tillamook, I think that's how you say it, spicy jalapeno, or the no sugar spicy jalapeno, or the like hickory, or black pepper. That's what it is, the black pepper version. These ones are a lot of moisture. I suspect the sugar content is considerably higher. Corn syrup, spices, dextrose, smoke flavoring. So the ones that I eat are usually pretty dry, which is like but these are delicious. But definitely a different texture. Now, I'm not detecting any spice. Maybe I haven't hit it yet, but these are not spicy. Well, here's some feedback. I just ran a musical with 5P200's live switch to vMix. My office, it worked. In my office, worked a treat. Only odd thing was weird color differences between 3 cameras. Just where on the sensor. Also, Vegemite is king. The intro makes me want to go and make a sandwich. Oh, Vegemite. Go get yourself some Tim Tams. Already done, my friend. Tim Tams, there is, I think, it's a playlist on my Bird Dog John channel that is just snacks on stream, and I used to cut up the snacks on stream segment because I used to eat some really spicy stuff, and in there, I believe there is a Tim Tam snacks on stream. They are delectable. I believe that's the correct term, and I love them. I could eat the whole package myself. Yeah. This doesn't hurt at all to eat this. So, the Amish, maybe they just like haven't got out much, because this is not spicy, for sure. Not compared to what I'm used to eating. That's for sure. There's no burn here. I feel like something, but it's nothing. You're not supposed to eat the whole thing. Wait, you're not supposed to eat the whole thing yourself? Yeah, that allegedly it's not a single serve when you buy a box of Tim Tams. They do sell them here in the States, and I think they rival like the Girl Scout cookie world. And I mean, I could kill Girl Scout cookies. Girl Scout cookies. Don't edit that to say something else. I could kill me some cookies manufactured by the organization known as Girl Scouts. Yeah, but the Tim Tams, man, yeah, I could go for it. I could really go for a nice spicy pepperoni right now. Thanks, John. Hey, I too could go for a nice spicy pepperoni right about now. No, these do taste really good. They you don't need to worry about this. Like if you're at all used to spice, you don't need to worry about the spicy label on that. I did see that Brayton had a jalapeno one, and so I might trade him, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, turn my playlist back on, just for a few more minutes while we're here, and then, yeah, I'm supposed to get back to work. So let's take a look at the map real quick. The QR code, I believe I took down, right? So let me throw that up as well. And yoink. If you scan that little QR code, you will be taken to a Google form that just says what country and what's the closest city that you are to. If you answer those 2 questions and hit submit, your pin will appear on this map. And I think this is a cool little element. Find out where everybody is. North America is representing here today. I see Japan is under my picture. And so maybe there is a way, actually I know there's a way, inside of here to change the opacity of my layer. Is there tally? Oh, edit. Is it this? Yeah. Oh, maybe not. Burnt. Lame. Effects. Huh. Color correction. Copy paste. Well, maybe I should. Well, nuts. Because I am definitely sitting on top of Japan on this picture. So maybe not. Whoa. Okay, this normally happens when we get a double check in. So I will double check a double check in. So I will double check and see where you guys are from. So we got a couple of people checking in. Looks like Edmonton and Sacramento. So let's go to this. And Edmonton and Sacramento. And if we just do this, there we go. That should correct things for us so we can see everybody. But all good. Got lots of folks represented here today. We should like get the names like scrolling on here. I wonder. Ooh, is there is a way. There is a way. It would be really neat.
How neat is that?
It would be really neat if I could get a, what is it, title? Like a ticker. A ticker. Let's do it. Yeesh. Okay, so here we go. This is what I want. Something like this. Say okay. And I want to kill this data source. Manage data source. Like this. Does it have to be a local file? I think it might have to be a local file. Although, could probably make it a local file. Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea. Interesting. Uh-oh. It did not like that. Okay, so I could totally set up a ticker that would show this information and title editor, and then we could show it here, right? So you could bring in data however you'd like. You click on data source, say manage. We could get it as a text table. Yeah. And then we could show across the bottom who's from where. So that'd be pretty fun. I think that's a good idea. I'm gonna figure that out. I think all I would need is basically a way to view the Google Doc on my desktop. So we could just do Drive for that information. Add a Google Drive here. Download Google Drive for computer. And then when that shows up, yeah, this is totally doable. Oh, man. Great idea, me. No, I'd always wanted to have more of that data. And so then we could add that as a layer on the map, right? Well, then how does that work? Because it would have to be on the desktop. So I'd have to, well, okay, let me think about that. Whoa, a lot of people chatting here all of a sudden. Snacks on stream. Angus is really excited about that spicy pepperoni he's got to go find. We were beset by herds of Girl Scout cookie pushers. Don't blame others. Tim Tam Slam. Tim Tam bite off two ends and sounds weird, but it's good. Bite off two ends. Oh, that sounds like a drug, like how you do drugs. We can split the jalapeno one after this, John. Oh no, it's all good. We don't need to. You gave me 2. I really should have only had 1. So Pi 5 excitement, anyone? May finally be able to display full 1080p 60 NDI. Hey, I watched Jeff Gearling's Pi 5 video this morning. Looks very promising. Whoa, way to block out the most important country. Hopefully they can make up with consumer demands. Or keep up, sorry. Sacramento is Justin and Jeff. There you go. Hey, John, you need vMix data sources. They are incredibly powerful. Well, what have we here? What's going on? Daniel, welcome. Welcome back. Dicaffeine on Pi 4 could only handle 720p 30. What if you relocate your camera to the bottom left of the map? This isn't stable enough, he says. It wasn't stable because it was pushing hardware too far. Pi 5 looks pretty cool though, except stupid micro HDMI. The test series I blogged about in 2020 gets a lot of views even now. Agreed, micro HDMI is dumb. Yeah. Okay, so the reason for that, Mr. JB Tech, is because I unified these 2 shots, and so I would have to adjust one and then take me over there, which is fine. It's not a huge deal. But oh, and Adelaide just got an extra shout out, it looks like. So it's not a big deal. We can totally do it. It's just a matter of, are we able to... Wow, look at all you guys. Can we just replicate it? So yeah, I could go over in the ocean. Does it make sense for this other shot? Yes, it does. Okay, so, all right, let's do that then. So let's go back to my desktop. I'm going to go back to vMix, take that over there so that we can all see it together one more time. So vMix be here. And these 2 are now under the output tab. So we're going to adjust the first one. And I'm going to say position. And we're going to pan over. Like that. So what if I make this 50? Okay, negative 750. All right, so we're going to close out of this. We're going to open this. And we're going to say pan 750. Okay, so now we didn't change the 1 axis. We just changed 2. So now I'm in the same, but yes, appropriately. So now if I am to show you the map, boom. The little green bar at the bottom is kind of useless information anyways. Thanks, Google. So that's the whole world. That's helpful. And you can see the QR code, which is up in the top corner over there. And it's not obstructing anything. So perfect. Good suggestion. JB Tech. I think I've moved around over the ages. I've moved around on these screens anyways, so it's not too astonishing. But all right, so I did download Google Drive. I don't necessarily want to download my whole Google Drive because that would be way too much info. But if I, whoops, make, okay, so it's under even my personal Google Drive. So all right, I've downloaded it. Let's go Google Drive. The question is, how quickly does Google Drive update? Is it real time? Does it work just like it does? Welcome to Google Drive. Get started. Sign in. Okay. Can I select, though? Can I select what gets downloaded? Synchronize None of these. Okay. Back up. Okay, got it. And that's what I want. Open drive. Okay, here we go. Everything's up to date. Now, the question is, inside vMix, can I pull the information to do that other overlay? So if we go lower thirds and we say ticker, and I say title editor, and if you'd like to follow along here, we can definitely do that. So if I say this, and I say data sources, manage, settings, browse. Yeah, okay. So then these are all my videos from there. So let me see if I can find the Google Drive. There it is. Google Drive, my drive. Oh, what's the document called? I think it's called. One moment, please. Yeah, June 22nd. Okay. Okay, so there is the sheet. Convert rows to columns. Sure. Why not? Incorrect function. Okay, don't do that. Incorrect function. Table, settings. Oh. Oh, no way. No way. Forget this. Oh, that's so stinking cool. Does it have to be the shared one? Yeah, share, restricted, only people with the link. Okay. Oh my word. Of course vMix has this all sorted. All right, I'm not going to put this up in recording. And what's the other piece? Google API key. How do I find that? Here. Done. Help, maybe. Let's ask. Oh, you got to set one up. API console. Oh, well, that's pretty helpful. From the project, select create new, APIs and services. On the left, choose your credentials, create credentials. Okay. So from the project, say new, API for Google. That's the project name. Create credentials. API key. Okay. Let's go back to vMix. The remote server returned forbidden. That's probably because I need some sort of subscription, isn't it? Huh. Oh man, that's very fascinating though. Okay. Well, I will figure that out, I think. Try and monkey with that soon. Very cool. Whoa, you guys are chit-chatting away here without me even paying attention. My one dot in the southern hemisphere. Yep, there it is. Google Drive has selective sync. You can You can select to sync. It's within 3-4 minutes, depending on when you're locked in. There will be a delay. Google Drive is like a Dropbox. Hey, but now you are covering up French Polynesia. It's true, I am. Can you only access data sources that are local? Evidently not. It's interesting how many days there are to slice this. I would have plugged. I'm sorry, how many ways there are to slice this. I would have plugged the sheet into singular. It might not like the G file type. Bird.cam count over NDI into vMix. Is there a bottleneck for CPU core count? Have you used 8 cams at once? My CPU is 8 cores, 16 threads, switched over 4250 through vMix. Oh, and now my face is covered up whenever I show that. That's why. I'm going to put my picture back in the top corner. Yeah, in vMix, there's going to be a limitation based on your CPU usage. Not necessarily, it's not an NDI problem. It's a data processing issue. And so you're gonna cap out at some point. Everybody's configuration is different though. So if you say I have 8 cores, 16 threads, there's a lot more to consider than just that in terms of performance. Like if you're running a GPU, you can do a lot more than if you're not. So it depends. My Giant 120 input gaming show uses Google Sheets data sources. I'm waiting for the moment. He has to get an API key from Google Cloud Console. You'll want to turn off your screen share while you set up the API key. In uses Google Sheet data sources. It's great. Free version will pull and update between 2 to 5 seconds. Google Cloud Console, new project, add the Google Sheet API, create credentials. Good choice to move the window off. Yep. Oh, is that straight in Google Sheets now? No, wait. Now it does sound like he's in Cloud Console. Never mind. You'll need a subscription, but if you don't include the Google Sheets API, it won't be able to pull the data. Looks like vMix integration integrates it, but you still need the API key. Man, I picked a good day to join. Google Sheets is solid. There you go. Wow, that's a whole lot of chatter going on, folks. And I really appreciate you guys playing along. I'm going to close this down for a moment because I need to move my image and copy it for both. So if I say, what do we want to do here? Y? No. Yeah, Y. All right, so let's say 620. 620 is the magic number. Uh-oh. Okay. And then on this one, 620. Whoa. There we go. 620, 620. So now if I cut between these two, I'm in the same spot. I'm covering up Alaska. So, hey, if you check in from Alaska, I promise I'm not doing it intentionally. But this way I will be able to show, where's my cursor now? 2 screens on 2 sides of the office. It's kind of confusing. Now, if I am able to show comments, now I feel bad that I made you move it. Just cover up Melbourne like no one likes them. Well, that's not true. I can't say that because that's my employer. No, guys down Melbourne are good people. So I might make it smaller. I mean, it's a fairly big talking head. It still doesn't really interfere with this shot, which is good because there's not anything going on over here. Ooh, my coffee. There's not anything really going on over there. But you know, it is what it is. It's good stuff. All right. Coffee from home. I probably shouldn't put that right in front of the screen. Okay. Let's wrap things up here, folks, because we have overhauled all of my outlets, and then we redid the companion control. So we have hit the objective for today. One of the things that I want to do that I've discussed on this show, and I should write it down so I don't forget, because I will forget. I want to create a ticker that shows the city info from the this here, and I could just scroll across the bottom from the world map data. So pretty exciting. So it'll be a fun little experiment. Oh, whoops, sorry. It'll be a fun little experiment to get to play around with. That'll be fun. There's always rivalry between Adelaide and Melbourne. Oh, I'm sure. Hey, what was the reasoning for how you have your camera added in picture that you needed to change it in 2 spots instead of 1? The reasoning was I wanted these to be the same. So when you switch between these 2 sources, the camera's not like, you're not losing me to a different spot in the screen. So I wanted them to be identical in both scenarios. Not like mission critical, but I think it standardizes the PIP stuff in terms of it's not visually jarring when I switch between these 2. And how often am I going to do that? I don't know. But if I switch between this source and this source, how visually annoying is it that you got to look at a different place in order to see me? So that was why I wanted to just leave it there. Hey, pop the link to the Google Sheet in the description of the QR code. Is hard when you're watching it on your phone. Yeah, that's always been one that I'm like, I don't know how to offer this otherwise, other than if I put in the chat, right? Is that what you mean? So if I were to say send form link shorten UR, there we go, copy. And then I were to drop that in the chat. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. Oh, yes, I can. So there's the link in the chat. It'll go to YouTube, and it'll go to Twitch, because those are the platforms that can receive it. Looks like Facebook cannot receive chats anymore. LinkedIn can't receive chats from me to you. I can receive them back. And Twitter, of course. So, but is there not a way to overlay your camera over either of the inputs so you don't have to correct both shots if you don't like the position? Yes. So you could use it as an overlay, right? As an actual overlay. Instead of a PIP, you could add it as an overlay and just appear in the same spot. Much like when I fire this is an overlay and it's in the same spot every time, right? So I'm not using overlay 4, although I don't have another button to add overlay 4 onto my X key. So I could trade out overlay 3 and leave the timer, I guess, as a secondary. So yeah, I could put my camera source and crop it down and then leave it as an overlay. And then when I go to a shot like this and I want to be on the screen, I could just hit overlay 3 or overlay 4 and it would show up. Yes, very possible. And a good suggestion, for sure. Oh yeah, so this is that map where you guys are filling out that data. If you scan that QR code, it'll put a pin on the map. And it's always fun to have kind of a running tally of who's been on the show and where you guys are checking in from. So we have a big empty field right in the middle of the world. Europe and Africa are underrepresented these days, but surprisingly, we have somebody in Australia that's checking in. So bravo to whoever you are, and somebody down in South America. So that's even cooler. Only cooler because we don't normally get that. Copy and paste the function in edit layers. Make it quick to add in each input. You're talking head, for example. Copy and paste the function in edit layers. Okay. So if I go here and I say edit layers, and then, oh, okay, I can copy this one. I see. Copy this one and paste it. Oh, interesting. Well, they thought of everything, haven't they? That's helpful. Thank you. See, I wouldn't have known that. If somebody hadn't spoke up, I wouldn't have known. So it's always a pleasure. All right, guys, it is almost 1:45, so I do probably need to get after whatever the rest of this day looks like. It's been a little scattered so far, but we got lots of stuff that we need to get to. So I hopefully you're looking forward to the weekend. Hopefully maybe you have you're planning on relaxing a little bit. That would be advisable, especially if you've been working all week. But yeah, take care of yourselves out there. It is a busy, busy world, and I'm hoping that you guys are looking after yourselves, because it doesn't do you any good to get sick or get run down, and then you won't be able to operate at all. So take care of yourselves. It's really important. And take care of each other. That's also very important. And we will see you next week on Tuesday. I don't know what the show's going to be about yet, but I'm sure something will come up. But we will see you next Tuesday at 11 o'clock right here. Bird Dog John. Here, I'll help you out. BirdDogJohn.tv. This is the place to come to talk everything Bird Dog, be a part of our little online community, and get your questions answered. Especially if you don't like submitting tickets. I work in the support office, so that's what we do all day. So feel free to join us right here Tuesday, Thursdays from 11 to 12, at least 12 o'clock Eastern time. Ask your questions. And if you want, you can leave a comment on the video after the fact. If you're watching this post and you want to ask a question, ask it there. And if, I'll bring it up in the real show and we'll talk about it. So that's where today's stuff, some of today's editing came from, were just some suggestions that came in through YouTube. So really great that people did that. Keep doing that. That's good stuff. And it makes everybody better. So thanks for playing along. Thanks for enjoying the past hour and a half with me. And like I said, I'll see you on Tuesday. The plan is Tuesday at 11 o'clock Eastern time right here in the U.S. We will join you for another hour at least. So take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. We will see you in the next one. I really appreciate you guys. Thanks.
Serenity now, insanity later.
This is magnificent.
Oh yeah, ooh, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and screaming.